Hello, I'm Bob Gilbert, President and CEO of the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. Welcome to the special virtual meeting with hospitality industry icon Mike Leven. I'm pleased that HSMAI members from both Europe and HSM and the Americas are able to join us today. My thanks to Ingen Hofseth, President of HSMAI Europe, for organizing this special webinar. Ingen and I are producing this webinar in the offices of Cendyn, an important partner of HSMAI regions in the Americas, Middle East, Asia Pac, and Europe. Our thanks to Cendyn for collaborating with us to produce the webinar. Let me now introduce the President of HSMAI Europe, Ingen Hofseth.
Thank you, Bob. It's awesome to be here in Boca Raton at the Cendyn office. And today we're going to talk about leadership and mentoring. For many of us, it's good to have a mentor outside your own company. And the mentor program is aimed for all ages and all levels. Even if you are a CEO or a managing director, sometimes it's good to have someone else to talk to. So we believe in a culture of continual learning. I happened to meet Mike Leven 5 years ago at HSMAI America Leadership Day, named after Mike Leven. And for the last 3-4 years, I've had Mike Leven as my mentor. He is a very famous hotel icon in America with tons of wisdom. You will get to know him in a little while. What is so extraordinary about him is his leadership skills and the way he sees customer service. So our mentor program is named after him. Back to you, Bob.
Let me introduce Mike. Mike is currently the chairman and CEO of the Georgia Aquarium. He's been in this role since January of 2015, and it's a role he calls therapeutic retirement. He's a longtime industry leader and hotel icon that has had an impressive career of spans over 50 years of experience in executive positions in hotel companies. He's been the president and chief operating officer of Las Vegas Sands Corporation, president and COO of Holiday Inn Worldwide, president of Days Inns. He's also served as the vice chairman of the Marcus Foundation, a philanthropic organization founded by Bernie Marcus, the co-founder of Home Depot. Mike is also a past president of HSMAI and has been a lifelong supporter of the organization. The HSMAI Americas region has their Leadership Day named after him, and HSMAI Europe has named its mentor program after him, the Mike Leven Mentoring Program, as well as its new program, Excelling at Customer Centricity, a program guiding a customer-centric organization to excel based on his philosophy. Mike will be interviewed today by Robin Deo, the co-founder of Cendyn. Robin has over 30 years of experience in the hospitality industry, including executive sales positions with Hyatt, Rock Resorts, and other independent hotels. She's a former member of the MPI Foundation Board and its Americas Council, and currently sits on the boards of several nonprofit organizations in South Florida, which focus on education, child and family welfare, as well as cultural history. Robin's role at Cendyn is concentrated on sales and operations, oversight of Cendyn's third-party sales channels and strategic partnerships. Robin, thank you again for hosting today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. We're really thrilled to have you all here. And Mike, it's just a privilege to be able to interview you and learn about your experience in the industry and your recommendations on mentoring others. I think when we were talking just a minute ago, you wanted to maybe kick off and start talking about mentoring versus teaching and what those different roles are.
Well, that's a good question. There is a big difference between teaching and mentoring. I think a teacher prepares a lesson plan in advance and goes at all students at one time and tries to impact those students with an education program. A mentor really has to understand their mentee first. You start off with, for want of a better word, the customer. Understand what the customer needs, and then try to use your experience to help the customer achieve what their goals are. So one starts in one place, and one starts in the other place. I think it's something people should understand, that there is a difference.
What sort of advice would you give others from your years of experience? The biggest things that you've learned?
Well, I think there are two things for me. The first is to be yourself, be who you are, understand who you are, what your skills are and what they are not, what you need and what you don't need, and act in a way that shares values that you've learned over the course of your lifetime. The second is that what I've learned is brains is no substitute for hard work.
Great. What do you think is the role of a really good mentor?
I think the passion to help other people achieve their goals. It's not for you that you do mentoring, it's for the person that is your mentee. Understanding their capabilities, helping to guide them in a direction where they can be successful and where they can be happy and they can achieve.
What topics do you tend to stay away from when you're working with somebody like that in that role?
I don't stay away from any topics. I think any topic is worth discussing and then trying to relate what that topic is to what the objectives are. So if you were to ask me a question on a topic that I didn't feel was relevant to the conversation, I'd ask you, why are you asking that question? And try to understand what the purpose of that question is.
In turn, do you try to encourage other people to mentor others as well? So it's almost like a trickle-down effect?
I don't think there's anything more satisfying than helping other people. I think in a leadership position, a management position, whatever position you're in, or parent, is a good example. I think you have to be responsible. A responsible mentor is not recreating yourself. A responsible mentor is someone who helps the other person be who they are.
And grow from that.
Absolutely. That's
great. What were some of the challenges you faced in a leadership role at a hotel?
Well, I think that's probably too big a question to answer in,
there's
in
a
an
lot
hour
of different
webinar.
Walks of life,
but I can tell you what I could never understand. I could never understand that why individuals in hotels sometimes don't understand who their customer is. To me, that's it. All starts with that. And if I've had any frustrations in the course of my career, it's being in an organization that doesn't focus on its customer. And secondly, I think an organization that doesn't also focus on its employees, because the two of them really go together. They do, and we just briefly talked about it, but do want to let everybody know that's on the webinar that we are accepting questions. So we invite you to please type into the chat feature, and we'll be addressing those in just a little while. But you think about a hotel, and you've got rooms, you've got food and beverage, you've got a lot of different types of businesses being run all in the same kind of building. And I'm sure that that's been challenging as well, trying to make sure that all those personalities and everybody works together well. Well, I think sure they're challenging, but if they weren't challenging, they wouldn't need you to be the boss. The end result of that is that everybody will tell you you've got to get rid of your silos. That all management books, they teach it in business schools, silos aren't good and whatever. I don't agree with that statement. You're going to have silos no matter where you go. Your job is to get the silos to work together, to get them on the common page of where they're interdependent on each other. Mm-hmm. And consequently, you manage the silos to do that. And you manage your people to understand the interdependence of their activities with the success of the total organization. That's really what you have to do when you're a general manager or when you're a corporate executive at a high level managing the field or a regional director. If you try to eliminate the silos, you won't be successful. The job is to get them to work together. Well, that leads me to my next question. You've done both. You worked at an individual property. You've also run a large brand organization. I mean, what are the differences with leadership and mentoring your team in those situations? Well, as somebody once asked me, what's the difference between Las Vegas Sands and all the other jobs that I had? Las Vegas Sands was sort of at the top of the cone. the highest level of salaries, the most experienced people, a big international organization with 50,000 employees. And I used to say that, look, the difference for me in managing the executives in Las Vegas Sands is the same as the difference between a college basketball coach in the NCAA Division I and a professional basketball coach running an NBA team. The NBA players are superstars, all making a lot of money. And in the other, they're college kids, and you have to you work with college kids differently than you work with the higher level of professionals. So at the highest level, you have to adjust yourself to understand that they have different needs and different requirements than somebody at a different level in the organization. And you can't, a lot of people try to manage everything exactly the same way, no matter where they are. I don't think you can do that. I think you have to adjust to the individual skill sets of the people that you manage. Same with mentoring. Mentoring somebody who's entering the hotel business, mentoring somebody who's a college student who wants to go into a business environment, and mentoring somebody who's making a 6-figure or a 7-figure income is a totally different experience. So you have to be conscious of that.
Well, and you bring up the casino market, which I've always been fascinated. I've never worked in that type of market segment, but it's completely a different beast than the regular hospitality industry. And maybe it's the revenues from the casino that drive the engine a little bit harder than they would in a typical hotel. But how did you find the difference there?
I don't think the difference is as big as what people think.
Oh.
The casino is an amenity in many hotels, such as the big hotels. It's another restaurant, so to speak. It's another profit center. There are more risks in the casino business because the amount of dollars that you're working with are much greater. But at the end of the day, running the convention department or running the accounting department or the food and beverage department or the banquet department or whatever is no different. It's just the sizes. It's a much bigger operation. In Las Vegas, we had 6,600 employees. Some companies don't have 6,600 employees. But at the end of the day, I think the day-to-day operations and how you relate as a president of that company to the individuals who are working there are no different.
Well, I think our philosophy around here is great people make great companies. And so, if you put a lot of investment in your team and mentoring them and leading them, then you're going to end up with a great product and great customer base to go along with it.
I agree. But great people make great companies, but great leaders get the best out of their great people.
Good point.
So you have to be, it's your responsibility. You can't be a great leader nor a great mentor if you don't respect the capability of others and understand your responsibility is to help them reach their capabilities. And on the other hand, I've always believed that it's the people that work with you that make you successful.
Very true. Very true. Circle of influence and the people you put around you is very important. I think also, too, you kind of touched on it, but trust. Trusting the people that you put into those positions and how you can mentor them and make them grow into the even better people.
Well, I think you can't have a relationship with anybody if you don't have trust. You see that on television all the time.
Right.
And so if you don't trust, if anybody who's distrusted will never be successful in the management function. You can be distrusted if you're not managing anybody because you don't have anybody to trust you. Right. But at the end of the day, we're all in this thing together, and trust is I guess I'd say it's the single most important must-have when you're leading, even in the mentor condition that we're talking about. If that person doesn't understand, doesn't trust that you're giving him your best situation or her, then they're not going to listen, or she, I should say.
Well, and then to segue, I was fascinated too by your work with the aquarium. And then that's a whole nother kind of genre as well. It's volunteer land. You're working with people that are just giving them a lot of their docents that are probably participating just because of their love of the organization. And that's a whole different kind of leadership style, I believe, as well.
Well, we have 1,100 volunteers. Wow. We have 400 full-time employees. And we have all the departments that you have in a hotel environment. Only we have fish instead of people. that we have to take care of. They're our guests, the fish. So you have a situation there with volunteers that you have to respect their volunteering. They're not working because they're making a paycheck. They're working because they love what they're doing, and we do a lot there to take care of them, to nurture them, and to thank them for what they do. And it's a little difference in nonprofits and regular profit-making businesses. The people who work in the aquarium love their jobs. The people who work in hospitality, hotels, and others not necessarily love their jobs. They need their jobs. It's a different kind of situation. And you have to be conscious about the fact that when you're working with those people, that you have to be a little bit more gentle than you might be in a business situation.
The accountability. We do have some questions. So Kelly is asking, how can you find a mentor outside of your organization?
You want Ingan to answer that question? I can answer it from my standpoint. I think that HSMAI is the place that you look for one.
Yes.
I think that's a basic answer. I mean, we have people who are members of HSMAI, and consequently, England is putting together a group of people who volunteered to be mentors, and just ask, and we'll get you one.
Yes. Yes, just contact us, and we will get back to that by the end of this call. We will get you the address to who to talk to, but yes.
Michael is asking, as a mentee, which criteria are key to choosing a great mentor?
Yeah, I think that it's somebody that you look up to and respect. But not always do you know enough about that person. So if you have picked out an individual that you want to be your mentor, I would ask a couple of individuals that might know that person, and if they confirm it, and that's how you go after that mentor.
Let's see what this one is. How do you ask an individual to be your mentor?
I think once again, at that question, you just go back to Ergen and her group, and she'll try to fit you with the kind of mentor that you would like. After asking you what you think your needs are, what help do you require, and try to make, put the round peg in the round hole.
Okay. Let's see. What tips would you give a mentee to gain the most from this opportunity?
That's a good question. I think you have to gain the best from your mentor, you have to be able to understand your own needs. You have to be able to open up your feelings to almost the same way that you might talk to a psychologist. Why are you here? I'd ask. What is it that you want? What's your concerns? Let the mentor know how he or she can help you. And if you're not willing to be honest about it, you will not get the right kind of mentor.
A lot of people always say, start with the end in mind and try to figure out where you're going to get to and how you're going to navigate that course.
Yeah, that's a back planning process that I learned when I worked with a Dunphy company in 1973. Back planning is the way you get results. You start at the right-hand side of the chart, what the objective is, and then you start where you are today, and then you work all the strategies. It's a little more difficult in the mentee situation because you're not really working on a planning end result. You're working on a more general kind of significance, but the mentee would have to have some understanding of why they're sitting there. And as I'd ask you, I'd say, why are you sitting here if you want me to help you from a mentor standpoint?
Gil's asking, I have a few requests to mentor colleagues. How much time should I dedicate to each of these people? Or what's expected of me?
That's an open-ended question, Robin. I think that that's in the first discussion with the mentee and the mentor together, there should be a conversation about figuring out what the needs are and how much. And I've done some of this outside the hospitality business, and It's been a lot of fun, and sometimes it ends by itself, and sometimes it goes on. And I would say to the mentee, have we done what we have to do? And if that individual says, yes, I think so, I'd say, well, then, okay, why don't we wait a couple of months and call me back, and let's see if we need anything. So I'll be here for you if you need it.
Okay. Liz is asking, what's the biggest challenges of being a mentor? I think we covered that, but.
The challenges of being a mentor, I think, is that you have to be careful not to try to just use your own experience. The biggest challenge is really understanding the person on the other side of the table.
And their role.
And their role and their needs. And because if you try to tell somebody, you can be me if you do this, it's not relevant. So you really must understand the mentee. And I could give you many examples of, I was mentoring a lawyer through an organization I work with, a nonprofit. And he had a problem with his boss. And he had a problem with his future, how he's going to move in the law firm. And I've never been in a law firm other than being a client, I guess you'd say. And we were talking about, we had a long conversation about his boss or whatever. And my advice was for him to confront his boss about his opportunities. And it came after 2 or 3 meetings, and he did. And our mentorship ended, and I saw him one day at a restaurant or something. He came over to me and he said, "Remember me?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm now a partner." So it worked, but if he didn't confront the boss and talk to the boss, it never would have happened. But it took a couple of meetings before that ever came up. So I think you have to spend your time, but you also have to know that it's not going to be forever. Right.
And like you said, you got to ask the questions.
Sure.
Put it out there. Let's see. What's our next one? Michael's asking, what is your view on reverse mentoring? Sorry, that was from Gil.
Well, I think that reverse mentoring would be, what does the mentor get out of the relationship? And, I hate to be, I guess, it sounds familiar, but you only get out what you put in. So if you really believe in mentoring, you're going to get something, you're going to learn something that maybe you don't know, or if you feel successful about it, then it's very rewarding, I think.
Well, you have great advice to give, but who were your mentors?
Oh, I've had many. I've had many mentors, from the first sales director I had in the 60s, to the individual who helped me in my first operating job. I'd have to say, I know this is going to sound strange, but the best mentor for me is my wife. Oh. And after nearly 58 years, I would go to her for advice and help, and she's kept me on a really good string of advice whenever I had a job offer, whenever I was having a problem in a particular job, whenever I wanted to leave a couple of jobs due to certain situations. She was always there to help me. And I did get some professional advice from different people along the way, but I think every boss that I've worked for, or even some people who are peers of mine in the business, I've used those contacts to help me all the time. And people don't think about it, because once you get higher up in the organizational levels, they don't think you need anything. But I need it just as much as anybody else.
Well, it sounds like your partnership with your wife is a very successful one. So Roger is asking, what qualities make the strongest mentor?
Oh, I think empathy, experience, a need to help, responsibility, and of course, a sensitivity. And the more you know about business, the more you know about human behavior, the more you know about the environment and everything else that goes in. So all of those come into, but I think you don't become a mentor, or you shouldn't become a mentor, if you don't get rewarded from that experience, if you don't feel it's going to be a reward for you.
Right.
And so you need to have those characteristics to mentor.
What about being brutally honest and straightforward? And we talked about communication, but I would think a mentor that'd be great value just to be a straight shooter and, you know, hit me with the hard stuff so I can be prepared.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can't be a good mentor if you're not going to be direct, absolutely direct. So if someone's having a problem with their boss, as an example, and they're asking for advice on how to handle that situation, you don't say, well, here's what you do. You say, tell me about it.
Right.
Give me the details about it. Do you think you're right about doing that? Do you think, for a lot of people, including myself, grow up thinking the boss doesn't know what he's supposed to know, or she. And the end result is the further you get from the bottom of the organization to the top, the more you find out that the boss doesn't always know everything, but it's always the boss. So that's the situation.
Great. We get another question, and this is from Michael. What if my mentee is working with a competitor of my business? Are there any legal constraints that you would advise against or for?
Well, that's a simple competitive secrets that what that company is doing should obviously be avoided. The mentor-mentee relationship doesn't deal with competitive secrets. It deals with behavioral situations that you would be in and what you need to be successful with your own. So I think if you were with a competitor, and I think the hospitality business has always been a business that competitors talk to each other. The casino business is a little different than that because the casino doesn't share customer bases except for credit purposes. So, but at the end of the day, there's a big integration in an organization like HSMAI of people from all different companies. So I don't think that's competitive. You're going to get involved in your company's secrets of how that company is successful. You're going to be talking on an individual basis to a human being. So I don't think there's a great risk of that.
Well, we talked about it too. You know, it's a small world, and there's 6 degrees of separation, and especially in the hospitality industry.
Oh, yeah, 6 degrees of separation. I find it almost in everything, but everybody, you know. So I don't think people are aware that, particularly in public companies, more so than non-public companies, that you can't share. You know, whether, let's say you're working for Hilton, they're coming out with a new brand, a new thing. You're not going to talk to that about a mentor. You're going to talk about different kinds of things. I wouldn't worry too much about that.
Do you think hotel employees need to be motivated in special ways compared to other industries?
No.
That's a great question.
No. I don't think hotel employees are any different than employees in any business. If I asked you the question, do you think hotel employees are different than the employees who are sitting out here with all these computers?
No.
Of course. I mean, people are people. The situation they're in, I don't believe people are very much different all over the world. I've done business internationally forever. And what I find is that human beings are human beings. So they're not going to be any different than any other industry. I think that's a false statement to begin with, from my perspective. You could say that people who are in hospitality business should be more hospitable, as an example, than people who might be surgeons, you know. But I think the nurses around the table, when they're taking your appendix out, are not much different than the people who are checking you into a hotel. I mean, at the end of the day. So, no, I don't think so. People are people.
Very good. And what's your greatest accomplishment as a mentor?
Well, I think what I feel is that the people I've mentored over the course of my career have remained friends of mine for life. And when we talk, as I was talking to Bob Gilbert before about some of the people, some of them no longer with us, or some who are with us, some are still working, some are not working, I feel I can pick up the telephone and call any one of them or send an email to any one of them, have a conversation if I haven't spoken to them for 2 years, and they're still my friends.
Right.
So that's a big accomplishment.
That's great. What qualifies someone to be a mentor?
Well, we're working on that. I think we've talked a lot about those qualities, but I think you have to have a sense of wanting to be helpful, wanting to see that it's going to excite you to be able to give information that an individual can use in terms of making their life and their work life more productive and more successful for them. And if you feel that inside, you're going to be a successful mentor. And you have to have patience, because and that's part of it. I don't have patience all the time, but as a mentor, I have patience. Sometimes I don't have patience with other things. I have to admit that. Some people who work with me will tell you they've seen me sort of throw things around the wall, but but that has nothing to do with my love for them, really.
Well, this has been fascinating. Are there any other questions that are coming online? We covered that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. You go back. That was one of the qualifications of a mentee.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that
Sorry.
I just saw that question. Yeah. I think if you want to be mentored, I think you have to have the biggest qualification is that you have to be open. If you're protecting yourself from really delivering to the mentor how you feel, what you feel, why you feel, it won't be successful. So you have to ask yourself, as I said before, one of the most important things is to be yourself, because the mentor can't be successful if he doesn't know who you are.
Okay, fair. Any other questions? Anybody want to jump in? I'm sure you've thought of some things as we've been talking.
Well, I have one question, Mike and Robin. And there's been a lot recently about the Me Too movement, and there's a recent study that was published about the lack of women in senior leadership positions in hospitality. Any counsel you might give women that really want to aspire to find mentors, either from other women or from men?
Well, you know, I'm from an older generation, of course. When I started in the hospitality business in the Roosevelt Hotel in New York, we had one woman in the front office, one woman in the banquet department or administrative banquet department. There was no females in sales, and I couldn't find any other ones. The only females in hospitality at that time were cleaning rooms and making beds, basically. It's 1961, primarily. Mm-hmm. I think today it's a whole different ball game, and I think most of the membership in HSMAI, majority is probably female today.
That's correct. Yes.
And I think I've always had this question about why aren't there more women in high leadership positions, and it's been going on now for about, I guess, 20 years or 25 years, and it's gradually getting to be better, meaning more. You could ask that question about not only hospitality, but on all the other businesses. First and foremost, when the female part of our population has gotten into more powerful or more higher levels of jobs, have been in companies that were outside the hospitality business first, because very competent women who were going into business school and other places were getting opportunities in big companies and first. In hospitality, most came into sales. It was the first entry point, and have been there. And many of them are in high marketing positions today, very high marketing. The movement from the high marketing position to the executive, the C-suite, so to speak, as they say, is a long and slow one. But I don't see any discrimination in terms of gender now going on. There are many women who are running companies, many women who are partners in individual entrepreneurial companies that work with the industry. I don't think it's a problem. I mean, the Me Too movement has other problems that they deal with, but I don't think the hospitality business is any more restrictive in terms of opportunity today than any other business. I think we've passed that. I think there's also questions about board seats, for female board seats. It's happening more. It's not quite equal yet, but it will be eventually. I see that a couple of the European countries, yours being one, and another, England's country, being one, that are now legislating that 50% of boards of public companies should have females. I don't believe in that kind of legislation. I believe that people should be put on boards to be competent, regardless of their gender, regardless of their race, regardless of their ethnicity. It doesn't make any difference to me. It never has. And I think time is in favor of the equality of opportunity for no matter who it is. And fortunately, we live in a world where it's much better than the world I came into in 1961. I had areas of discrimination myself. And when I took over Days Inn in 1985, there were tremendous areas of discrimination to Asians, Asian Indians in particular. And I've worked hard on that all through my career. So I don't think it's, in fact, the HOA will install the first female president of the HOA this year. First, that's unbelievable. It could never have happened 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And I'm very proud of that. So I mean, there are other things not for this webinar that we could discuss about what's going on, but I tend to somehow in a lot of the nonprofit world that I work in, there's a lot of stuff that happens because of the Me Too movement, and that's not the purpose of the seminar. But I think from getting an opportunity, I think the hospitality is there.
Good.
Just going to be time.
Just speaking on behalf of myself here as a leader at Cendyn, do you have any specific advice for females in the industry?
I don't have any different advice for females or males or old white men or young white men for that matter. I think it's the same, Robin, that I give to anybody. Be yourself. Know who you are. Work hard. Learn, read, understand the human condition. The world is your oyster, and you go back, and hospitality was a very, very limited and very discriminating business for years. When I started at the Roosevelt Hotel, in the file system in sales, they had cards that were marked with 3 X's for associations, and I went to my salesman and I said, "What is 3 X's in association? What is that?" And he said, "Oh, that means they're black." I said, "Well, what does that got to do with anything?" He said, "Well, we don't take them unless it's July and August." That's 1961.
Wow.
We don't take them. And I said, "How can that be?" "Well, that's the way it is, because our regular customers don't want to go in and see the National Black Lawyers Association here." That was in 1961. So you can imagine how far we've come in 50, 60, almost 55, 58 years. And so I've experienced all that stuff. And but you don't change it overnight. It takes time. And the impatience of movements creates more difficulty in terms of letting the thing mature. So I don't advise a female to do or any differently than I advise a male.
Okay.
I don't have a daughter. I have 3 sons, so I don't have that experience of advising a daughter, but I have a granddaughter, and I have 3 daughters-in-law, so I have that kind of situation and all the problems associated with it. But anyway.
We do have a question from Allison, and she's asking, were there any pitfalls in your career or anything you would do differently?
Well, I think anybody who says they wouldn't do something differently is not really aware of all the things they've done wrong along the way. Of course, I made some mistakes. I didn't accept the job offer that I should have accepted. I took a job offer I shouldn't have accepted. I made mistakes in terms of underselling a piece of business or overselling a piece of business. I've made mistakes in hiring, which is the most vulnerable. The most vulnerable mistakes you'll make. I think I'm pretty good at hiring people. But at the end of the day, you're lucky if you're right half the time. So I think that's the most important thing. If you expect that everybody you hire is going to be able to do exactly what you think they should accomplish, you're going to be wrong, because you don't know everything. And so I admit you're going to, I've had those kind of things happen. So, and everybody in going through the chairs, so to speak, is going to have that happen. And it's a great disappointment. But and then I think the most difficult thing that you have to do is when you have to terminate someone's employment. And I've been involved in 3 or 4 different business turnarounds, some of which are done for economic reasons, some of which are done for personal reasons. And I belong to the theory that says you never want to take somebody's dignity away, and it's very hard to do. And but you should never ever take somebody's human dignity away.
Let's see. Earlier, you mentioned one of the most important things was how to differentiate yourself between knowledge and then hard work. Can you kind of add to that?
Yeah. When I joined the Roosevelt Hotel in the sales department, I didn't know anything about the hotel business. Zero. I didn't go to hospitality school. I'd only stayed in a hotel once in my life. My parents were motel people, not hotel people. So I didn't know anything. And I went about trying to learn, watching, doing stuff like that. The difference was I thought I was smart enough because I went to a good school, I had good marks in school, I had a graduate degree. I looked around, most of the people around me, I'd say were World War II veterans at the time. They didn't have my education. They didn't read the same things I read and whatever. I said, well, I'm smarter than the next guy, so maybe I can do it with my brains. But I found out after a couple of months, my brains weren't working. I couldn't do it just with my brains. So my mentor at that time was a guy named Joe McCarthy, who was the director of sales, and he came in and he said to me, look, I'm going to teach you what you're going to do to be successful. And he gave me a plan. And he said, you execute this, meaning you execute this, and then you'll be the best salesperson we have. It had nothing to do with my brain. It had to do with my work. He said, come in at 8 o'clock in the morning, look at your cards for the day, get out on the street at 9:30, make your sales calls till 12, then come back, take a customer to lunch, do the same thing in the afternoon, and see me at 5 o'clock and go over all the calls, and then go home. And I did it day after day after day after day. And it was like a labor job. But I learned along the way, and as a consequence, within 7 or 8 months, I was booking more business than anybody else. But what he did was open the door of work to give me the opportunity to use my head in a way that converted that work to business success. And so I think the more knowledge you have, the more you use that in a management way, and the more you can help the people that you, as he did with me. So, but I always say that range, once you get to a certain level of IQ, the difference between somebody at 115 and 140 may look great on a piece of paper, but it doesn't make anything in terms of your business success. At a recent study of elite schools that was in the Wall Street Journal the other day, the 25-year study indicated that you can go to any college, and there is no difference in terms of the success later on. So what is the difference? The difference is
street smarts.
Working hard work, yeah.
Hard work.
Robin, if I can jump in, I think that's a great segue to a question that the industry is facing today. That everybody's talking about the need for talent, and they're looking to a lot of the hospitality schools to help develop that talent. We've talked about leadership and mentoring. Is leadership something that can be taught, or is it an attribute some people have? And if so, what can the schools do to really help hone and foster those leadership skills that we've talked about today? Is that possible?
Well, I think schools either in hospitality. I'm involved in a hospitality school now, 2 in Kennesaw State in Georgia, and I talk at a lot of hospitality schools here in Florida. I think that schools tend to be more technically oriented. I hate that. Sorry to be honest, but I hate that. I said, and I probably hate it because I didn't have any technical knowledge. I didn't know food costs from the cost of an orange. I didn't know what rooms departmental profit was. I didn't know what I didn't even know how you calculate room rates or anything. I didn't know anything. So you say, well, what did you know? I said, well, I was a major in political science. I was a theater arts minor. I acted and directed plays. I sang in musical comedies. I played lacrosse. I played basketball. I was president of my fraternity. I wrote for the newspaper. I was a sports editor for the newspaper. I did this. I took anthropology courses, psychology courses, comparative religion courses. I took all these courses. I read Shakespeare. I read the Bible. I took a Bible course. I took an Old Testament course, a New Testament course. I did all that. That's what I knew. That's what I knew. I didn't know how you check in. I didn't know the tube that sent the bill up to the controller's department. I didn't know what a controller was. He called me up to his office when I was with the Roosevelt Hotel. And I said, "What's a controller?" I didn't even know what it was. All these big finance people come with their MBAs. I said, if they don't know that, they don't know the human condition. This is a human business, and so are others. Yeah. And so consequently, if you don't know the human condition, you can't get up there if that's something you want to know. And so I get these questions all the time. What should I read? I said, why don't you just read the Bible and Shakespeare? That's all you got to read in life, and that'll tell you every human condition that's ever happened. And they look at me like I'm some kind of strange bird that came up with something. You kidding me? I mean, what do I have to know? Somebody asked me, what is Las Vegas Sands like? I said, how many Shakespearean tragedies have you ever read? And so maybe it's my personal view, but I don't think you train what's a good wine. I mean, you can read that, you can taste wine. What's a good scotch? Or what's the difference between choice meat and prime meat, or all this kind of stuff. So what? Some expert will give you that. You can do that. But some experts say, how are you going to handle somebody in your organization, like in Las Vegas, when one guy came to me and he said, we have one of our employees who makes $28,000, $30,000 a year, whose 7-year-old son is dying, and they can't afford the money for a funeral. Now, where are they going to teach you what to do? And the guy said to me, we're raising money to pay for his funeral, and will you make a contribution? I said, well, who are you raising money from? He said, well, we're raising money from some of the people that want to pay for it. So I said, well, I can't give you the money from the company, but how much do you need? He said, I need $5,000. I said, okay, I'll write you the check personally for $5,000. So now let him have his funeral. So where do they teach you that? They don't teach you that looking at a corporate finance course. They don't teach you that. And they don't teach you to say it can't be the company that pays it, because if the company pays it, you have to pay for everybody's funeral, and it may not be relevant. But you can pay for it, so you pay for it. So where do you learn that if you don't learn that by educating yourself on the human condition? And I know you have to have some technical knowledge. Nothing wrong with that. So you teach room revenue management in a college course. Fine. Okay, you can't really teach somebody to do revenue management walking in the door. But technicians are fine, but leaders are different. Leaders are different. And if I leave you with anything today, I'll say, if you want to be a leader at the highest level or a mentor at the highest level, you have to understand the human condition. That's what it's about.
And it is a human business, that's for sure.
Well said.
Thank you, Mike. We really appreciate your time today. This was very insightful.
Thank you, Mike. This was fantastic again. So thank you all for watching. If you want to get to know more about our mentor program, if you want to become a mentor or a mentee, just contact us. And very soon you're going to see a slide where you have all the contact information about where to reach us. The email address is postbox@hsmai.eu. I repeat, postbox@hsmai.eu. And we will send you more information and the forms you have to fill out. And the best thing I can tell you right now is that Mike Leven, he will be the coaches for the mentors. So you have the best coach you can imagine. So he will continue to be with us. And if you want to become a mentee, please also reach out to us. Again, thank you for watching, and see you soon again.